Ladies and gentlemen, let's gaming to the video. I want to talk to you about ZEN. The GPU market is really the thing at the moment where PC gamers are fixated. Let's face it, with both Pascal and Polaris touting rather impressive performance increases over the previous generation, it's fair to say that ZEN isn't really on the forefront of a lot of folks' mind, but it should be. And there are many reasons why I believe that ZEN could be a really good thing for the industry as a whole. It's not that I feel that Intel have done a bad job in producing CPUs. For example, I feel that X99 platform has been pretty damn excellent. Even Skylake has its place, particularly because the processors are so darn overclockable. But with all of that said, more competition is only a good thing. Now ZEN, of course, is going to be introduced as high-performance CPUs, and let's face it, if it's competitive, it's going to be pretty darn excellent. John Taylor, who is the corporate vice president over at the worldwide marketing over at AMD, has decided to share a few quotes with us, the highlights of which indicate that ZEN is not just going to compete with Intel in terms of pricing. No, it's also going to compete with Intel in terms of both features and performance. So let's get into the quotes. For the first time since I've been at AMD, I can say with absolute confidence that AMD has the products, strategies, to change any negative perceptions customers may have had. AMD have moved upstream with its support from HP in the new Business Class Elite book, and believe me, we will get into premium products like Dell XPS, Lenovo Yoga, and HP Spectrum, and many more. By the end of the year, AMD will have moved on to both its Zen Core CPU as well as Polaris graphics architecture. We are far closer to Intel than ever before. You always need a number 2 to keep them honest. VR is bringing back to the PC. There is a huge investment in virtual reality, and only an x86 PC with a top-end GPU will deliver. It is ideal for education, media consumption, engineering, esports, games, and so much more. VR needs the horsepower that an x86 PC or notebook can provide, and we plan to be a very big part of that with Radeon and AMD. End quote. So we do know some stuff regarding the feature set of the AM4 platform. AM4 will feature USB 3.1, M2 SATA, and NVMe. They're all going to be supported, which is absolutely excellent. Now, honestly, it's going to be really interesting because previous leaks have indicated that ZEN is going to be focused upon 8-core solutions for the desktop, and could drop to 6 cores. I guess it's going to depend upon yields, because let's say for the sake of argument, AMD noticed that, let's say, 3 in every 10 Zen core, 8-core processors can only operate 7 or below. It would make an awful lot of sense for them to also release a 6-core processor too. And because each of these have hyperthreading, or essentially hyperthreading, it's SMT, simultaneous multi-threading, that means you're going to have either, well, 12 threads, or you're going to be able to go all the way up to 16 threads, which should be more than sufficient to power a lot of games and pretty much any other application in the near future. Now, a lot of folks are bringing up the 40% IPC, which is not based upon Intel. It's instead focused upon AMD's current lineup of CPUs. They're basically saying that we're going to offer a 40% increase over those processors per clock. It's IPC, instructions per clock. The issue is it's very difficult to know, therefore, what the performance is relatively. So it's tempting, and believe me, I've kind of done some ballpark figures myself, to say, well, all you have to do is you have to look at the benchmark of whatever FX processor, let's say the 8350, compare that to, let's say, the Skylake lane, or not even compare it, let's say you take the FX processor running at X speed, you add 40% to that, Bob's your uncle, that's the speed of of Zen. Unfortunately, that doesn't necessarily marry up to reality, and there are several different reasons behind this. One of the most obvious ones is we don't know the clocks that we're going to actually theoretically be able to reach with Zen. So, for example, it could be Zen is clocked the same speeds as the current FX processors. It could have a 500 MHz advantage. It could have a 2 GHz advantage. Obviously, I might be slightly exaggerating with the 2 GHz. The point remains the same. Plus, as well, there are other platform advantages like DDR4, the fact that they are essentially going to be full cores, and the fact that we will have 16 threads, well, assuming you go for the 8-core Zen. A lot of applications will definitely benefit from that. Now, what does that mean if you're looking to buy a new processor? Honestly, it's way too difficult to say. I would love to say that Intel are going to get slapped by AMD because I think it would be good for the industry. Theoretically speaking, we should see AMD with a performance roughly around Skylake level. Now, we are basing this on 40% once again. Whether AMD are going to be able to tweak that a little higher, whether it could be a little lower in reality, and finally, it probably does depend upon application. I wouldn't be surprised if in some applications AMD do better, and I wouldn't be surprised if in some applications Intel do better. And this is just the way of things, unless you've got exactly the same architectures. Even back in the day when the Pentium 4 was slower than, let's say, the Athlon 64 in gaming, the Pentium 4 still did better in certain benchmarks or in certain applications. It just did. And that could be the same with Zen here. And honestly, I'm kind of good with that. If AMD are able to be competitive in terms of pricing, if AMD are able to be competitive in terms of their performance, and AMD are able to compete in being able to produce cheap CPUs with a good number of cores for us as customers, it's going to be very compelling. Because while a lot of games for the next year, maybe 2 years, are not necessarily going to jump on DirectX 12 bandwagon, there are multiple reasons behind adoption rates. It could be DirectX 12, they don't feel that the install base for Windows 10 is necessarily where they want to be. It could be that some developers want to see what happens with Vulkan, which, to be honest with you, I can understand that philosophy. And it could even be that their own tools and engines require some work and their programmers need some time to actually understand how it damn well works. So for some time, yes, DirectX 11 is going to still be around. I wish it wasn't, but that's what it is. And some of it as well is to do with GPUs and hardware support, because some folks just don't have GPUs which is going to be capable of supporting fully DirectX 12, which is what it is. There's nothing they can do about that. It's, once again, our good old friend, total available market. However, it's going to be very interesting because theoretically, we could have a solution here with Zen, which means that the processor could be faster in terms of single performance than the 5960, for example. It could swallow less energy, because that's 140 watts, I think. And I believe Zen is 90 or 95 watts of TDP. So that's good. And honestly, I'm kind of looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to being able to review it. And I mean, server side, which obviously we're not going to get that. Well, maybe we will. Who knows what AMD really have planned. We just don't know. But supposedly the server side, AMD have 32 core processors with 64 threads, which is absolutely bonkers. And obviously they've also got the APU iterations of that as well, which have high bandwidth memory too, and a partridge and a pear tree. One must admit that Zen is a very apt name. The fact that the processor seems a lot more balanced compared to, let's say, Bulldozer, and the fact that we should see excellent floating point performance, we should see good, integer performance, and also the fact that AMD have supposedly improved cache and overall bandwidth efficiencies in the chip, plus of course once again with seeing it coupled with DDR4, it should be a rather interesting platform. So, anyway, with all of that combined with better latency, better prediction across the processor, it should be very interesting as a platform, and hopefully it is, because I would love for folks to really have a reason to say, gee, is it better to go with this or is it better to go with this? Currently AMD are very competitive in terms of pricing for certain tasks. They really are. But for the very high-end individuals, Intel kind of have it sewn up, and I don't want that because I don't think it's good for the industry. So, join us, shall we? By the end of the year, we all know, because that naturally is when ZEN is going to be released. Well, by basically the end of the year we should see all of the benchmarks, we'll have it available on our shelves, and we're going to be happy campers. Anyway, hopefully you've enjoyed the video. I'll see you soon. Take care of yourselves. Bye for now.